And this I'd like to ask the senator from Tennessee, because this was one that we went round and round again. And I want to again thank him and his staff and my staff and the staff of our now 9 co-sponsors on this legislation. One of the things that was quite important to us was, if you're going to create this new model, how do we make sure that while we want more competition, private sector competition, while we want institutions to be able to go ahead and provide this important issuance and securitization function, how do we make sure that those small banks, that community-based bank or that credit union, that small bank in Knoxville or that small bank in Martinsville, Virginia, still gets access to the same kind of ability to issue mortgages, have those mortgages securitized, and not be at the disadvantage of some of the mega institutions. So I'd ask my colleague, the senator from Tennessee, Senator Corker, why don't you speak to that issue because it did take us a lot of work to try to get this right, and there may be even be further refinement, but I think this is an area where, again, with the reaction we've seen from the credit unions, the community-based banks, I think we've made a great first step.
Yeah, one of the things that, no question, the community banks and credit unions around our country have been concerned about, even though Freddie and Fannie are 90% of all home mortgages today and very dominant, obviously because of what has happened, but also because of the tremendous market share they've had, is that if you're going to wind these down, are we going to be assured access into this market? And so we have created mechanisms for them to be able to come in through issuers, to be able to do this. One of the things that so many of the community banks and credit unions have complained about as a tremendous disadvantage with our existing system was that there was volume pricing. In other words, if you were a big user of Fannie and Freddie, they gave you a big volume discount. So Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan, as they tried to process loans through Fannie and Freddie in this old system, they got big volume discounts, and so they were more competitive. So the community bankers that mean so much, and these organizations obviously are important that I just mentioned, but the ones that really drive things back home, the community bankers that are members of the Rotary Club and the Lions Club and are involved in our communities, they were constantly at a disadvantage as it relates to housing finance. And so one of the components of this bill is not only to ensure that they've got equal access into the system, and we do that, I think, very eloquently in this bill, but in addition to that, we ensure that there's no mechanism that allows for volume pricing. Everybody is treated the same, as it should be, because in this particular case, we end up with an explicit government guarantee. It's very different. You don't have a situation where you have private shareholders doing well when things are good and the public doing bad. But one of the reasons we felt confident in moving in this direction again was the tremendous amount of upfront capital in advance. So again, we've tried to deal with the smaller institutions. Matter of fact, we haven't tried to deal with it. We've sat down and worked this through and worked through the many issues that they have brought up. We know how important they are to everyone here and everyone in the country. We've dealt with that, but we've also created enough upfront capital, again, as the senator has mentioned, to protect the public. So I know that, again, every bill can be improved. We saw that most recently with the immigration debate. As a matter of fact, I think that's a good model. We've introduced something. I hope that the Banking Committee will take this up soon. I mean, it's almost unprecedented to have 9 members of the Banking Committee co-sponsoring this piece of legislation. Hopefully, it'll have the opportunity for a markup or improvements. We know that the chairman and ranking member obviously are going to want to put their stamp, and many members in the committee, of anything that occurs. But I think we've done some of the work that's important to establish a very good beginning place. And we've tried to address, as the senator mentioned, the many community banks around our country that are in here constantly, that are so important to the states that we represent. And I think we've done that. And again, I know the senator and his staff and many of the co-sponsors, that was something that was an ultimate threshold for them, was to ensure that the community bankers and credit unions around our country had the appropriate access. And I think we've hit that that good place in this bill.